Chapter 7 of Vanaparva, Pashupata. After bidding farewell to his brothers, to Draupadi and to Dhaumya and the rishis of Kamyaka, Arjuna proceeded slowly towards the north. In course of time, his speed increased. He crossed the mountain called Gandha Madana. He had seen it during the triumphal tour at the time of the Rajasuya. Arjuna had hoped to see this mountain again. He was very happy to see it. It looked as though an old friend was greeting him. Arjuna crossed the Himavan and reached the mountain peak which goes by the name Indrakila. He decided to stay there and perform his penance. He saw an ascetic sitting there. This ascetic asked him who he was and why he had come there to the lonely and fearful place. He said, "This place is inaccessible to people. It is meant only for those gentle souls who have renounced the world. You, however, seem to be a warrior. You are wearing an armor and you have a bow and arrow. This is not the place for your armor and your weapons. This is the place where people subdue themselves and not others. We seek peace here and not war. Please throw these things away and rest in peace." Arjuna was not for renouncing his weapons. The ascetic tried to threaten him, but Arjuna was adamant. The ascetic revealed himself. It was Indra. He asked Arjuna what he wanted. Arjuna fell at his feet and told him about the visit of Vyasa and his advice. He said, "My lord, I do not want to go to Indraloka, your domain. I do not want the pleasures that are assured for those who have seen you once. I have left my brothers and Draupadi in the forest and have come in search of only one thing, proficiency in the divine astras. I am able to think of only one thing, the war that is to be fought very soon. We have to prepare ourselves for it. My lord, you once told me that you would give me the astras you have when the proper time comes. Do you think the time has not come yet? We have got to have our revenge on the sinful Duryodhana. Please help us." Indra took his son's hand in his and said, "Do not grieve, my son. I will give you all the astras. But before that, you must see my lord Shankara in person. You must perform your penance here. You will please him. He will reveal himself to you and give you his Pashupata. I will come to you after that." With these words, Indra disappeared. Arjuna was intent on only one thing, the appearance of Shankara. He was lost to the world in his concentration. He stayed like that for how long he knew not. He denied himself even the bare necessaries and was intent on his penance. Shankara knew his heart's dearest wish. He saw that the time had come when Arjuna should be rewarded for his devotion. Shankara assumed the form of a hunter. He had a bow and arrows in his hand. His consort Parvati was with him, dressed up as a huntress. They came to the mountain Indrakila. The forest was silent when they appeared. Just then, a Rakshasa by the name Muka, taking the form of a wild boar, took it into his head to attack Arjuna. He charged at Arjuna. Arjuna took up his Gandiva in his hand and said, "You are disturbing me and my penance. You seem to wish to send me to the abode of Yama. Instead, I will send you there." He fixed an arrow to the bow and was getting ready to shoot at the boar. Just at that moment, Shankara, in the guise of a hunter, appeared and said, "Stop! This boar is mine. I have come to kill it. You have no right to kill it. Stop!" Arjuna did not pay any attention to the words of the hunter. He released his arrow, which lodged at once in the body of the boar. At the same time, the hunter too released his arrow, which went right into the body of the boar. When the two arrows together pierced the body of the boar, it looked as though two streaks of lightning were descending on the same mountain peak. The boar fell down dead. It assumed the form of a Rakshasa and life ebbed slowly out of the wounded body. Arjuna turned his eyes on the hunter, who was accompanied by his women. The presence of these two made the entire mountain glow with a strange light. Arjuna spoke to him. Who are you? You seem to have no fear of the wild beasts on the mountain slopes. You have brought your women also. Do you not know that this place is dangerous for women and for even men? You look like a hunter. You, however, do not seem to know the rules of hunting. This boar was trying to attack me, and I aimed my arrow at it with the intention of killing it. You have also sent a shaft into this boar. You have no right to do so. This Rakshasa is now cut exactly into halves, like the legacy of a dead father divided by his two sons. You have transgressed the rules of hunting. I am angry with you. I am going to kill you. Arjuna took up his bow and was ready to fight with the hunter. The hunter smiled with a smile of infinite charm. He spoke in a soft voice. I had already aimed at the bow. He was mine already. He rushed towards you, but he died by my arrow. You are an impertinent young man. You are very conceited. You seem to be too vain about your valor. You cannot kill me as you say. As a matter of fact, it is your life that is in great danger of being lost. This bow is mine. The arrow which you have shot it into it is mine also. If you are man enough, if you have courage enough, then rescue this shaft of yours. Still he stood smiling. Arjuna was furious with this wild hunter who had dared to challenge him. He was annoyed because his penance was being disturbed, but he was piqued by the words of the hunter. He was ready to fight the duel to which the hunter had challenged him. Each stung his opponent with arrows like poisonous snakes. Arjuna enveloped the hunter in a cloak of arrows. With a smiling face, the hunter removed the envelope as he would a thin film of fine silk. He was again and again smitten by the sharp arrows of Arjuna. But he looked so unruffled, only his smile was becoming more and more pronounced and more charming. Arjuna was nonplussed. This man would not be hurt by his arrows. He said to himself, this hunter is very handsome. He looks like a young peak of the mountain Himavan. He seems to be different from the ordinary hunters. Perhaps he is God from above sporting this disguise, but whoever he may be, he seems to be a tough fighter. It is a pleasure to fight with this man. Arjuna now decided to send an astra instead of the usual arrows. All the arrows he had shot so far just stuck to the body of the hunter without in any way hurting him. Like a mountain against a hailstorm, he stood unmoved by the onslaught. Arjuna found that his quivers had suddenly become empty. He was surprised at this. It should not have happened. Arjuna grasped his Gandiva and hit the hunter on the forehead. Still, he stood unmoved. Arjuna was frantic. He grabbed his sword in his hand and advanced towards the hunter, who stood smiling still. With the intention of splitting his head with the sword, Arjuna hurled it at the head of the hunter. The sword was just as ineffectual as his other weapons. Arjuna took up bows from the trees nearby. He took up stones. In short, he took up anything he could lay his hands on. Still, the hunter stood undaunted with that maddening smile. Arjuna challenged him to fight a duel with him, a duel with their hands. Both of them hit at each other with their fists like pieces of iron. The hunter hit Arjuna and he returned the blow. The fight was terrible. The hunter was undaunted. Arjuna found him to be too powerful. He was now faint with fatigue. He was furious with the man. He was upset at the thought that an ordinary hunter was getting the better of him. He fought on, but in the end Arjuna became unconscious with weakness. He got up and tried to fight again, but he could not. His body was red with the blood flowing freely from his many wounds. Arjuna was very unhappy. He prayed in his mind to Lord Shankara. He made a garland of the wild flowers growing there. He made an image of the Lord out of mud, a linga. He placed the garland on the linga and closing his eyes he prayed to Shankara. He prayed for the grace of the Lord. He opened his eyes and found that the garland was not on the linga. He was startled. He turned his eyes on the hunter. He saw the garland of flowers on the head of the hunter. He fell at his feet, and tears from the eyes of Arjuna washed the feet of the Lord Shankara. The Lord smiled the sweet smile and said, Arjuna, I am very pleased with you. Your valor is great. Your skill is something special. You are unequal in this world. I have not seen a Kshatriya like you. You will be invincible. You are equal to me in your bravery. I am happy to grant you any boon. You will defeat all your enemies in the war. Arjuna again fell at his feet and craved for pardon. Shankara took him by the side and raised him up. He asked him what he wanted. Arjuna said, My lord, I want you to give me your personal weapon, the Pashupata. And my lord, I want to be granted the privilege of seeing your real form. Shankara said, Certainly, I will give you my Pashupata. I came in the guise of a hunter because I wanted to find out if you are fit enough for it. I am satisfied you are. You are not only fit enough but good enough for it. In the hands of a bad man, it will become a dangerous weapon. It will destroy the entire world. But I have every confidence in you. You will not use it unless it is absolutely necessary. Shankara, with Parvati by his side, revealed his true form to Arjuna. Then he gave the Pashupata to him. He taught him the incantations for sending it and for withdrawing it. Arjuna received it with great joy and greater humility. The heavens and earth rejoiced. Shankara said, Your father Indira is waiting for you. He has work for you in the heavens. The mountain Indrakila was glowing with the presence of the Lord. Suddenly the glow waned. The Lord had disappeared. Har Har Mahadev. Shri Krishnarpanamastu. Vanaparva, Chapter 8. The other Astras. Arjuna's mind was in a state of strange exhilaration. He had seen the Lord Shankara. He could not get over it. He was still under the spell of it. Suddenly he saw a pearly white radiance all around him. It looked like 1,000 opals, corals, and pearls, all gleaming softly together. He saw a strange sight. All the gods of the heavens were coming to the peak Indrakila. He saw Varuna, the lord of the oceans, Kubera, the lord of the riches, Yama, the lord of death, and Indra, the lord of heavens. Varuna, Kubera, Indra, and Yama were the lords of the four quarters, west, north, east, and south. They approached him and blessed him. Yama said, Arjuna, you have seen the form of Shankara. We are all pleased to reveal ourselves to you now. You will be able to conquer all your enemies in the war. Your fame will live forever. I am Yama, and I am pleased to give you my Astra. With Krishna to help you, you and your brothers will be the lords of the earth. Varuna said, I am Varuna, lord of the west. I am the lord of the oceans. I have come to see you. Pleased with your valor, receive my Astra, the powerful Varunastra, which will be of immense help to you in the war which is imminent. Use it with discretion. It is as powerful as the Astra of Yama. Kubera said, I come from the north, which is my domain. I am Kubera, the lord of the wealth of the earth and the heavens too. I say that you will win all the wealth of the earth after destroying your enemies. I will give you my Astra. You are fit enough to use it. Indra embraced his son and said, I am feeling very happy. I am so proud of you. You have achieved with what no mortal has been able to do so far. There is work for you in my kingdom. Prepare yourself to go to my kingdom. I will send you my chariot. I will give you all my astras. Looking at all the gods of the heavens who had assembled on the top of the mountain Indrakila, Arjuna was overcome with a great sense of humility. He could not speak because of the tears that were choking him. He fell at their feet and honored them as was their due. He said, I am a humble mortal and you are gods. In your extreme love for the Pandavas, you have favored me. I have been granted the good fortune of seeing you with these earthly eyes of mine. I do not know how to repay you for this kindness. The gods were pleased with him and his humility. They blessed him and vanished. Arjuna was still thinking of the wonderful happenings of the day. He felt as though he would never be able to get up. He experienced such an emotional upheaval. He was feeling delightfully weak. Suddenly he saw the chariot of Indra. It was resting on the peak. The charioteer of Indra, by name Matali, came to Arjuna with a smiling face. He said, "You must now come to the heavens. Your father needs you there. You must come at once." Arjuna said, "Yes, I must hurry. It is my great good fortune to see with these earthly eyes the heavens which are reached only after performing yagas like the Rajasuya and Ashwamedha. It is the end and aim of all Kshatriyas to reach the abode of Indra after this life on earth. It is for this end that we live in Dharma. When we walk the earth, I will come. Krishnar Pranamastu. Chapter 9 of Vanaparva, Urvashi's Wrath. Arjuna purified himself in the waters of Ganga, whose source was there. He invoked the spirit of the mountain and said, "O great Mandhara, I salute you. You are the home of the rishis who have gone beyond the reach of the senses. You are the landing place for those who aspire towards heaven. It is because of your grace that people are able to achieve their ambitions in the spiritual world. O King of Mountains, I am now taking leave of you. I have spent very happy days in your shelter. I have feasted my eyes looking at your rivers, your slopes, and your dense black forests. You have fed me with the fruits of your trees. You have soothed me with the breeze, perfumed by the flowers from your forests. In the rivulets springing from your heart, I have found peace, like a child sleeping peacefully on its mountains, on its mother's lap. I have found comfort in the loving protective care of your slopes. I will remember these happy days on your slopes with great affection and gratitude. I now prostrate before you and take leave of you. Please bless me." A sigh trembled through the branches of the trees. It looked as though the mountain heard his words. With tears in his eyes, Arjuna bade adieu to the great Indrakila, which had revealed Shankara to him. He ascended the chariot which his father had sent for him. They reached Amaravati, the city of Indra. He saw all the heavenly trees he had heard about. They passed the wide, beautiful roads and reached the home of Indra. Arjuna alighted from the chariot, helped by Mathila, and was led by him to the court of Indra. Indra got down from his throne and taking Arjuna by the hand, he led him to the throne and made him sit with him. It seemed as though there were two Indras instead of one. Indra would often touch Arjuna with his hands. He would stroke his head with loving hands. He would smile on him again and again. The two together on the throne looked like the sun and moon together. They were, they were both happy. They were together, father and son. There was music and dancing. Arjuna saw all the apsaras of his father's court, Menaka, Rambha, Urvashi, and Tilottama. He saw their dancing. He was watching it intently. He heard them sing. He was so thrilled to know that he was actually in the court of Indra. When Arjuna was watching their dancing and listening to their singing, the favorite apsara of Indra, Urvasi, was smitten with love for dark, handsome Arjuna. This son of Indra looked just like another Manmatha. Urvasi lost her heart to him. She spent the night in restlessness. Her mind was fixed on Arjuna. She thought of him as her lover. She thought of him by her side, smiling at her with his eyes full of love for her. He would not let her sleep. Urvashi felt that she had to have him. The moon was shining bright. It looked like a day. Her love was just unbearable. Suddenly she got up from her bed. She walked towards the mansions of Arjuna. Her hair was not even caught up in a ribbon. It was wandering round her shoulders like playful clouds flittering with the moons. She was wearing flowers on her arms and on her neck. Her form was perfect. It was made for love. Her beautiful skin, glowing like molten gold, was now wet with sweat. Her breasts were perfectly shaped. She walked towards the mansion of Arjuna with her wide, beautiful hips swinging gracefully. Wearing a very thin mantle which was the color of clouds, she tempted even the rishis with the beauty of her form. Urvashi reached her destination. She went to the doorway of the palace. She entered. She announced herself to Arjuna, who was in his bed. He got up in a flurry and received her with respect. She stood like looking at him with her eyes full of desire. Arjuna was feeling embarrassed. He bent his eyes to the ground. He could not meet her hot eyes. He fell at her feet and said, "You are welcome. I cannot see what I can do to please you. You seem to be in a great hurry. Will you tell me the reason for your visit?" Urvashi smiled at him and said, "Today in the court of Indira, I saw you looking at me. I have never seen anyone like you before. I want you. I could not sleep since thoughts of you have banished sleep from my eyes. You must take me and put an end to my suffering. I am burning with love for you." Arjuna was feeling shy and nervous. He was shocked by her open avowal of love. He placed his two hands on his two ears. He said, "Let me not hear such words. You are right. I did look at you in the court of my father today. But that was because I knew that you were the beloved of the great Pururavas, our ancestors. I have heard about the great romance in his life, how he was smitten with love for you and how you returned that love. So I looked at you as I would look at a mother whom I had never seen before. You were more beautiful than I had imagined. That is why I looked at you so long and so intently. You must not think wrongly of me. You are a mother to me. You must not talk like this. In fact, I think it is your motherly love which is making you like me so much. Please do not ask me to think of you in a different manner." Urvashi smiled at him and again. She said, "You do not seem to understand. We Apsaras have no age. We are always young. The rules that bind ordinary people do not bind us or affect us. We are dancers in your father's court. We believe we belong to everyone. You need not think that you are transgressing any moral code by taking me. I am just a dancer. You will not be committing any sin in accepting my love. I love you. You must not disappoint me. You seem to know so much about dharma. Do you not know that it is the dharma for a man to please the woman who comes to him asking him to satisfy her desire? You must accept me." Arjuna was sorely distressed by this predicament. He did not like this at all. His soul shrank with shame even at the thought of it. He said, "Please listen to me. You are beautiful, very beautiful, and you are very unhappy because of me. I realize all that. But to me, you are as much my mother as Kunti is. You are as sacred to me as Kunti, Madri, or Sachi Devi, the queen of Indira. You are the mother of our race. We are proud to be Pauravas. I fall at your feet. You are my mother. Please do not distress me with this request. I cannot think of you differently. I am sorry. I cannot. Please forgive me." Urvashi was mad with anger and frustration. This had never happened to her before. She was furious with Arjuna. Her lips quivered with anger. She looked at Arjuna with her eyes red with wrath. She said, "I thought that you were a man. I thought that you would be chivalrous enough to see the state of my mind, but I see that you are not so. You have insulted me. Accept my curse, if not my love. Since you are so conceited about your manliness, I say that you will lose your manliness. You will be a eunuch. You will spend your days in the midst of women dancing for their amusement." With her form still heaving with anger, with her eyes raining tears and fire at the same time, Urvashi left his presence. Left his presence. Arjuna was left alone with the dreadful curse. He was stunned by the calamity which had befallen him. He spent a bad night. In the morning, he went to his friend Chitrasena and told him all that had happened during the night of Urvasi's visit. Chitrasena went to Indra and acquainted him of the curse of Urvashi. Indra sent for Arjuna and comforted him. He said, "You have today achieved what rishis have not been able to do so far. No one, not even I, have been able to resist the beautiful Urvashi. As for her curse, I will ask her to reduce it to 1 year. For 1 year you must suffer her curse, but it will serve you. During the 13th year of your exile, when you will all have to live in disguise, this curse of Urvasi will be helpful." Arjuna was now happy about the curse. It would solve a great problem of his. He spent a very happy time at Amaravati with his father and his friend Chitrasena. Indra gave him all the divine astras he had. Arjuna learnt singing and dancing from Chitrasena and the Gandharva. He became a past master in all the fine arts. He could play on all the musical instruments. He was an adept at it. One day, the sage Lomasa came to see Indra. He saw Arjuna sitting on the same throne as Indra. He thought to himself, "This is a Kshatriya from the earth. What special yaga has he performed? What has he done to deserve this honor?" Guessing his thoughts, Indra said, "My lord, I can guess the thoughts that are now in your heart. This is not any Kshatriya, this is Arjuna. He is my son born of Kunti. He came to me to learn the divine astras from me. You will recognize him if I refresh your memory. You know the great rishis Nara and Narayana? They have both been born on the earth to fulfill a divine purpose. The earth complained to Lord Vishnu that the burden of sin that she was bearing was beyond even her patience. The Lord said that he would descend to the earth himself and relieve her of her burden. Narayana is born as Krishna of the house of Vrishni, and Nara is my son Arjuna. Very soon there will be a bloodletting on the earth which will curse her of the poison that has accumulated in her, which will cure her of the poison that has accumulated in her. As for Arjuna's coming to me, I have retained him here because I want him to kill my enemies. They are the Nivataka Vachas. Nivataka Vachas. My son will do this for me and then proceed to the earth. I want to ask a favor of you. Please go to the earth. In the Kamyaka forest dwells Yudhishthira and Draupadi with the other 3 Pandavas. They are all missing Arjuna. You must comfort Yudhishthira and tell him that Arjuna has now become master of all the divine astras, that he is the student of Chitrasena now and is a master of all fine arts, that there is now no one equal to him in dancing, music and archery, that he is here with me to help me win the war in the heavens. You must make them forget the unhappiness caused by the parting from Arjuna. Please coax them to go on a Tirtha Yatra. I want you to do this for me." "Certainly," said Lomasa. He blessed Indra and Arjuna and proceeded towards the earth to the Kamyaka forest. Krishnarpanamastu.